You wouldn't leave your medical records on the subway for just anyone to pick up and read. But we are leaving DNA in public all the time for someone to find. We forget that there's this massive surveillance program happening all around us. We really need to think a bit more carefully about biological surveillance, but biotechnologies in general. What's okay and then what's not okay. With surveillance, we were so focused on the electronic that we'd completely forgotten about the biological. So I'm trying to help you mask your DNA so that we can exercise more control over the shedding of biological traces. It's hard to really overestimate how important it is. The stakes are so high when we're dealing with life itself. I'm Heather Dewey Hagborg, and I'm an artist. One of the main reasons I've been interested in working with technology or science as an artist in general is because it's a way of engaging with this environment that we're surrounded by, exposing or revealing things that go unseen, unnoticed, making the invisible visible. So I've been working with surveillance as a theme in my work. Right now, we are more surveyed than we've ever been in the history of humanity. When I noticed that we were spending all of this time thinking about the electronic data trails we were leaving, but we weren't actually thinking about the physical traces we were leaving. Cigarette butts and chewing gum and hair. I just felt like I had to dig into it. I had to understand what was becoming possible and going undiscussed.
I steal DNA. People are just leaving their DNA all over the place and leaving artifacts which anyone could come along and mine for information.
A lot of my work begins with a question. In this particular case, the question was, what can I learn about someone from a single hair? So that led me to working on this research project, Stranger Visions, to render an actual likeness of a person from DNA alone. The process involves taking a sample, extracting DNA from that sample, then amplifying sections of that DNA using a technique called PCR, polymerase chain reaction. Then I take that information and then I output a 3D model of that face, which is printed in full color.
Now she's hoping it'll raise questions about genetic privacy.
Biotechnology, this is a new form of technology that's coming to influence our lives in incredibly intimate, personal ways that we are in many ways not thinking about.
The Rapid DNA Act would allow police officers to take a suspect's DNA and put the sample straight into the FBI's database.
Privacy should be a choice. Biological privacy should be a choice. The more that we're database, the more that our information is accessible. There's a question of how possible it is to have biological privacy. I was researching Kary Mullis, who's the inventor of PCR. He imagined a day, maybe 10 years in the future, where you would be able to buy something called DNA Anonymous, and it would be a spray that consisted of amplified sections of people's DNA that you could use for covering up your DNA traces everywhere. And so when I read about this, I thought, well, where is this spray? Why has no one made this DNA Anonymous spray? That's sort of where the idea for Invisible came from. So Invisible is a DNA counter-surveillance kit. It's a suite of 2 sprays, erase and replace. Erase is good for wiping away traces of DNA. Erase is 50% bleach and water. The replace spray is essentially cloaking your DNA traces with DNA noise. Replace consists of more than 50 different sources of human DNA. I think of Stranger Visions and Invisible both as being kind of exploits in the hacker sense of the term, utilizing vulnerabilities as a way of revealing something. I package up sets of Invisible and then plant them for the casual passerby to notice and perhaps pick up and use. People love to say, but why should I care? I have nothing to hide. And I think that's a very privileged position to be in. I don't even think we've begun to really understand what the stakes are. Where does this affect populations? Where are there the social justice concerns that scientists might not even notice? I'm an artist, so for me it's really about pointing to these issues. What I'm hoping is to provoke those conversations between people so that if you think it's scary, do something about it, because you may think you have nothing to hide, but you might not actually know. You don't necessarily know what your DNA says today, and you don't know what your DNA might say 10 years from now. So really, you don't know if you have anything to hide.